Life has been pretty good so far. I have had a beautiful and sexy wife for 5 years now, 2 wonderful sons aged 4 and 3. I met my wife through mutual friends about 6 years ago. They say opposites attract, and in our case it was true. In high school, she was the typical American girl, while I, on the other hand, was the bad boy, kind of the guy who just gets his way. She went to college and I got a job in a factory. She was the kind of girl who dresses up, while I was happy in jeans and a t-shirt. I think you kind of understand where I'm going with this. We were opposites. We did have something in common, which we'll get to later. We met at a New Year's party. She was with her date, some rich guy who probably got his women because of his money. She didn't look like a woman you could buy. Most of the people at this party were probably above average financially. Everyone except me, of course. I was just a good old factory worker, but a happy one. I worked 8 hours, had good benefits, and very little stress. You're probably wondering how I even got invited to this party. One day I was driving home after work when I saw a broken-down car on the federal highway. This is a place where you don't want to get into an accident during rush hour. Nice, expensive car. When I pulled up next to him, I recognized one of our office managers in the driver's seat. His wife looked upset next to him. I pulled out of the slow traffic in front of their car. "Mr. Bailey, I'm John Davis from the alterations department. Is there anything I can do to help?" "I recognize you, John. Thanks for stopping." "The stupid thing just stopped. I was lucky that I was able to move to the side. Sorry, I had to introduce you. This is my wife, Emma." "Hello, Mrs. Bailey. Nice to meet you. I wish this could happen under more favorable circumstances. Mr. Bailey, if you open the hood, I'll take a quick look. I'm pretty good at car repairs. I called AAA, but they said it would be about 2 hours before they could get here. I would be happy with anything you could do." He opened the hood, and I looked around a little. "Mr. Bailey, did you recently replace the battery?" I asked. "John, you can call me Dan. We actually replaced the battery about 2 days ago. Your mechanic left a wrench on the battery, and it must have jiggled and hit the battery connectors and created the impulse that stopped your car. Let me take it off and see if it starts. I need to get a pair of gloves. This key is fried." I walked over to my truck, grabbed some gloves, and removed the now fried black wrench from the battery. I took my tools that I keep in the car and cleaned the connectors as best I could. "Okay, Dan, try it." The car started moving. I closed the hood, wrapped the burnt wrench in a rag, and handed it to Dan. "You may want to take this to a shop and have them check your electrical box to make sure there is no other damage. They should also replace your connectors. I made them as clean as I could. You should be fine now." "How much do I owe you?" Dan asked. "You don't owe me anything, Dan. Maybe someday I'll need help. It was nice meeting you, Emma. Maybe we'll meet again someday." "I was glad to meet you too, John," she said. They drove off, and I got back in my truck and drove home. There is something satisfying about helping people in trouble. A couple of days later, while I was working, Mr. Bailey, Dan, came up to me to thank me again. He said he took his car to the dealership, and they had to replace most of the wiring. He was told he was lucky his car didn't catch fire. "I'm glad I could help, Dan." "Emma wanted me to invite you to our New Year's party if you don't do anything. Something like gratitude for helping us. You can bring a girl with you if you want. If not, then there will be many suitable ladies there." He handed me the invitation. "Thank you, Dan. Now, I'll probably come alone. Thank Emma for the invitation. As I understand it, you have to wear a suit and tie. Dress as you like, John. It's a party. The idea is to have fun." I was wearing slacks, a blue button-down shirt, and a sports jacket. This is about as close to what I wear. I was greeted by Dan and Emma, who in turn introduced me to several other people, including Kara and her date, Rob. Kara is a beautiful woman and was all dressed up. She smiled at me as she said, "Hi, John, nice to meet you." Ray, on the other hand, was exactly what I thought he would be, an arrogant man who came for the money. Kara and Ray worked in the same office. Emma was a passive partner in the firm, also working there, but most just thought she was a middle manager. Ray was busy kissing the boss's ass, so I walked up to Kara and asked her to dance. We hit it off from the very beginning. We danced and she told me a little about her life. She said Ray, and she worked in the same office. She didn't really like him, but she agreed to be his date at this party. She knew all the people from her office who were there. She didn't know many of Dan's friends. I told her about myself, which I thought might turn her off because I'm not someone who has money. But that didn't bother her. I think she was pretty independent. We probably danced 4 dances in a row before she remembered she was with Ray. She left to find him. I danced with a few other girls, but it wasn't quite the same. When they found out that I was penniless, most left after the first dance. I decided that they were hunting for husbands. Love didn't mean a damn thing to these women. Money was the key to their success in life. At midnight, everyone shouted, "Happy New Year," and kissed each other. I was looking for Kara. I asked her to give me a New Year's kiss, and she gave me a kiss. I pulled her to my lips again and gave her a real sensual kiss. After about 3 seconds, she relaxed and returned the kiss. We must have kissed 3 or 4 times before she pulled away. I asked her about her date, and she said she thought he had gone out with one of the secretaries. I asked her if she was ready to leave, and I would take her home. At first, she stared at me, but then we said goodbye to Emma and Dan and left the party. Kara, I'm not ready to take you home. Could we go to another party that I was also invited to? John, I don't know why I left with you. Ray will be angry on Monday because I left him. Tell him that you saw him kissing the secretary and decided to leave. I'm sure that's what he's probably up to anyway. Please come with me. If there's no other reason, do it for me. I want to show you off. You are the most beautiful girl I have ever met. But I'm not your mate. You will, if you come to the party with me. Come on, Kara, live a little. She smiled at me, and I went to one of the local parties where I knew some of my friends would be there. Everyone I knew said hello to us. They all talked about what a beautiful woman Kara was. They asked me a bunch of questions about her, but I didn't know anything about her. We had a great time at the party. Almost everyone accepted her, although some women envied her. We had fun for a good couple of hours before leaving. I took her home. She still lived with her parents, but they were gone for the weekend. "Do you want to come in, John?" she asked. "Only if I can make love to you," I replied. "We just met today, John. What would you think of me later? I want to make love to you, to possess your body. I want to kiss every inch of your body. As for what I think about you now, later it will only be much better. I might fall in love with you if I haven't already." I saw her trying to tell right from wrong, whether she should or shouldn't. I wasn't going to wait for an answer. I took her hand and walked her to the door. She gave me the key, and we entered the foyer. She took off her coat, and we headed to her bedroom. Not a word was said. When we got there, I kissed her very tenderly. "John, I've never done this on a first date before. I need you to know this." I slowly unzipped her dress and let it fall to the floor. She was wearing only her sexy bra and panties. She was also wearing tights, which I hate. I needed to take them off first, so I put my hands over them and lowered them onto her buttocks. She sat on the bed while I finished taking them off. "Kara, why do women wear tights? Most guys hate them." "For 2 reasons, for me, John. Firstly, to make my legs look smoother, and secondly, so that guys can't get into my pants." She smiled. Taking off her tights, I gently pushed her onto the bed. We made love for the next few hours. Of course, this was not entirely true. We had to rest between sessions. We started dating and eventually got married. Her parents weren't very happy about our wedding, but Kara stood her ground and told them that we would run away if we didn't have a wedding. They gave us a really grand wedding. I even felt out of place here. The only people I knew were my mom and dad, Dan and Emma, and of course Ray was there since she invited her entire office. I invited several friends from work, but they didn't come to the wedding. They gave us cards and gifts, but said they just felt out of place. Her parents gave us $50,000 as a down payment on a house as our wedding gift. We bought a fairly modest place, but it was still out of my price range. I worked overtime to be able to make payments. Kara never complained about our financial situation. I don't know if her parents ever gave her some every now and then or not. Kara knew that I wanted to be the head of the family, and I wanted her parents to help her as little as possible. Shortly after we got married, she became pregnant. We might not have gotten married, we just made love day and night for weeks after we got married. Our son Jimmy was born. Kara took time off from work to be with her child. After about 2 months, she returned part-time. We could use this money. A little over a year later, our second son Jerry was born. We kept my name in J. There was Jimmy, Jerry, and me, John. I was hoping it would be a few years before we had another child. Kara decided to go on birth control. She took another 2 months off and then returned to work part-time. Instead, we received bad news. My plant was closing, and they were going to merge our plant with another plant 2 states away. Hearing this, I was shocked. That was all I knew. I've worked there since high school. Now I was on the verge of losing my job. I came home to talk to Kara about the options they gave us. We could move to Illinois, we lived in Ohio, or get a severance package that depended on how long we worked there. All this was supposed to happen in 60 days. Kara said she didn't want to leave the state. Both of our families were here, and she felt the children should see their grandparents. In our city, not many people were hired. Kara came up with the idea for me to become a stay-at-home dad. Her job, if she worked full-time, brought in $80,000 a year. I never knew this. We never actually discussed this. She didn't take money from her parents. She earned it herself. I asked her why she never told me, and she said that many men feel inferior when their wives earn more than them. She said that I am in no way inferior to anyone. She loved me with all her heart, and we could overcome this bump in the road. We didn't really have much of a choice at this point. I became a stay-at-home dad. Almost a year has passed. It's actually quite cute, minus the diapers. I take my sons to the park almost every day. I talk to all the other moms and nannies. Let me tell you, these women are talking some nasty shit. They didn't seem to care that I was the guy among them. Listening to some of them talk was worse than the locker room talk I heard in the gym. I get offers almost every day. I don't know if they all meant it or not. I'm sure some of them wanted it. If I hadn't loved my Kara so much, I might have been influenced by many women. I am influenced, but only by the woman I love. Kara very rarely refuses my love. Kara came home and wanted to talk to me. She said they hired several new managers and transferred several people from other offices. You look a little worried, dear. What is this? What's bothering you? I asked. The good news is that they hired Dan, Emma's husband, for an office position. I'm not quite sure yet what his responsibilities are or who exactly he works for, she said. Darling, this is good news. Dan is a good person, and I'm glad he was able to get a decent position. John, I know you don't like Ray. I interrupted Kara. You said that Ray was transferred to West Virginia when you left full-time. He was there, but he's being transferred back. He'll be here next month. I just felt like I had to tell you. That's all. That's not all, is it, Kara? I could read it in her face. No, he will return as my boss. I asked to be transferred to another department, but they refused. Apparently, I'm too valuable to be transferred. I spoke to my boss, William, and he is being transferred to Arizona due to breathing problems. So I'm the only one who knows our department outside of Ray. Why didn't they just promote you? I asked the same question. It seems Ray knew about William's departure and asked for the job. He's already at that pay level and has seniority over me, which is why he got the position. You want me to go and talk to him before he tries to do anything to you? John, does this make sense to you? He may not do anything. He's just so pushy. I don't know what to think. I will continue to work on the translation. I didn't want to bother you about Ray, but I didn't want you to hear it from anyone else either. You did the right thing when you told me, darling. Thank you for being such a good wife. Until the end of the month, everything seemed fine. Ray arrived the next month, and Kara always came home later and often upset. She hardly played with our boys. Sometimes she didn't have dinner. I had to figure out what the problem was. The next time she came home upset, I told her we needed to talk. What's the matter, Kara? Ray proposes to you? I asked. Not exactly, John. He really fools around and tries to touch my arm or hand when I'm alone with him. He talks about how he used to think about me and stuff like that. Is there really no one to whom you could tell, with whom you could talk? And what to tell them, John? Sir, I dated Ray once before I got married, and now he's talking to me. John, I can't prove anything. I even put a tape recorder in my drawer, but he never tells me anything when we're in my office. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just paranoid. Honey, if he ever tries to do something to you, will you tell me or keep it a secret? Honestly, I don't know, John. I think it depends on what he was trying to do. For example, if he tried to kiss me and I told him no and he backed off, I probably wouldn't tell you. You would have gone and killed him, and I would have been left without you. I love you, John, and I would never do anything to hurt you. All I ask, Kara, is if you have any problems with Ray or any other guy, let me know. After our conversation, everything began to seem better. Kara still had to work late a couple nights a week, but she seemed happy when she got home. I cooked simple dinners because of the kids, but at least once a week we went out to eat out for real. I did feel a little awkward when we were dating other people. There was still something special about having a stay-at-home dad who was always there. This didn't bother Kara or me, except when others brought it up, especially if they joked about it. I was still a man, and it's hard to explain that I still cared about my family, but in a different way. I did have a bad temper and also a jealous streak, so my friends knew where to draw the line when they talked to us. Some of Kara's friends' husbands didn't do this, and a couple of times I met them outside for a few minutes to sort things out. I never told Kara about them, but she did wonder why some of her friends didn't hang out with us more often. I remember one time when we were walking with a snobbish couple. It was some old friend of Kara's. I only met them at the wedding. Mary seemed to be fine, but her husband, Robert, as he preferred to be called, was an arrogant jerk. At our table, he made some shitty remarks about the man being the head of the family. After I had my fill of his crap, I smiled at him and asked him to show me his new Porsche. Of course, he immediately jumped up to show off. We told the girls that we would be back soon. We went to the parking lot and walked up to his car. I pressed his face to the car, grabbed his hand, and pulled it behind his back. I hit him twice in the kidneys and scolded him. "You arrogant worm! I've had enough of your speeches. When we get back there, and if you make one more comment about me being a stay-at-home dad, I'll throw your fucking head out your precious fucking car window. Do we understand each other? Yes, I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me." "Let's go back inside, and you better act normal," I said. We returned to the house, and I told Kara that it was a beautiful car and that she deserved one. She told me how cute I was, and maybe someday she would get it. But for now, she was happy with her car. She drove a decent car, a Mercury, but it was a few years old. I traded my truck for a van because of the kids. We needed more space than my truck offered. During this entire conversation, Robert said almost not a word. I saw his wife look at him several times, probably wondering why he was so quiet. One day, Kara came home from work and told me that she wanted to see a play on stage. She asked Mary if she and Robert would like to come with us, and Mary said no. After some prodding, Mary told Kara that Robert didn't like me and didn't want to date us. I think Mary told Kara about the time I hit Robert in the parking lot. I was wondering how he told this story because he didn't even resist. Kara was mad at me. She told me that maybe she should just go to the play with Mary and Robert and leave the caveman at home, meaning me. "Go to hell with them if that's what you want. I don't want to watch this damn play anyway. Hey, I have an idea. Ask your boss Ray to come with you. I'm sure Robert would approve since they both want to get into your pants." I have a tendency to watch people, and when we were having dinner, I remember Robert looking at Kara a lot. Maybe she dated him before we met. We never talked about our past dating habits, which was good. I seduced almost any woman who walked. My motto has always been, if they were having a hard time, I could use it. Kara was now angry at me too. "Maybe I'll just do it," she replied, walking into the room to see the children. None of us apologized, and she was going to the play on Saturday. I really wanted to ask her who started all this, but I didn't want to start anything. It had only been 2 days since our fight, and we barely spoke. I called the boys. "Come on, guys, let's go to McDonald's for dinner." I didn't even say goodbye to Kara. "What about Mom, Dad? Won't she come with us?" "No, she has a date with friends. Maybe you can see her tomorrow after you get up. I'm sure she'll be back late tonight. Kara looked at me. I did it. I probably asked for it myself. You're pathetic. You have no reason to talk to me like that. It was you who didn't want to go to the performance. As for returning home late, maybe I won't come home at all. Kara called our sons to her. Jimmy, Jerry, Mom is going to play with her friends tonight. This is not a game for children. That's why Daddy is watching you. See you tomorrow and we can go to the park, okay? Can Daddy go to the park with us, Mommy? Jimmy asked. It's up to Dad if he wants to go. See you in the morning. Just remember that Mom loves you. Now run with Dad and have some fun at McDonald's. She kissed them both and went back to getting ready. I really felt like crap. We never argued very often, but when we did, it was always like this. My damn temper and jealousy, but she doesn't give in an inch. There wasn't much I could do now, but I hoped it was just an argument and that Kara would handle it. The children had fun playing at McDonald's. I bought each of them a baby food and they liked the toy inside more than the food. They played in the game room and I watched people. Several nice women came here with their children. I watched some of them and could tell that they were watching me. They probably thought I was a divorced father taking his kids out to eat. Heck, who knows? It might happen. God, what was I thinking? My mind was working overtime. I didn't like my own thoughts. I know for sure that if she ever cheated on me, I would kill that bastard and divorce her. After the kids played for about an hour, we went to the airport and watched the planes take off and land. The boys liked it. Look, Dad, here comes the big one. See? Do you see it, Dad? They would keep asking me about it every time there was a plane, and there were a lot of them if you were at the airport. When we returned home, it was already getting dark. I bathed them and then put them to bed. They looked like two little angels lying there. They really were quite good boys. They thought better than I ever did as a child. God, I loved them and I really enjoyed being around them. It was just Kara who I've missed since Ray came back to town. Meeting after meeting, time away from our family. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I lay on the couch and watched everything that was shown on TV. It looked like a children's cartoon channel. I just wanted some noise. Around midnight, I heard a car drive into the garage. I heard Kara come out and come in to see me. I pretended to be asleep so she wouldn't bother me. I didn't want to deal with this right now. I watched her go check on the boys, and then she went and took off her dress. She must have decided to take a shower. In the morning, I got up first and saw the program from the play on the table. It looks like she went to a play, but with whom? I wasn't going to ask her, let her tell it herself. The boys had already woken up and wanted pancakes for breakfast. While I was making pancakes, the boys went and jumped into bed with their mother. I heard them telling her about the prize they got for baby food and what they were playing. Then I heard her ask them what Daddy was doing while they were playing. He just looked at us, Mommy. Was he sitting with anyone? No, Mommy. He sat in the nursery and watched us play. What the hell does this all mean? She comes out and doesn't trust me, damn her. Maybe I gave her a reason. She could take the boys to the playground herself. The boys came to the kitchen and ate their pancakes. Kara came in and tried to talk nicely to me, but I didn't return her niceties. She ate 2 pancakes, sat down, and talked to the boys. Before she could ask me if I was going to the park, I told her that I had plans for today. She will have to spend time with her children without my presence. Where are you going? She asked me. Plans, I have plans. I'm going to meet my friends. I need to leave alone, I answered. I could tell she was furious. She did the same thing to me the night before. I wasn't her doormat. I went and put on a nice shirt and a pair of trousers. I told the boys to enjoy the park with their mother and left the house. I had nowhere to go. I just wanted to get even. How stupid can you be? Our marriage was now a walking time bomb that neither of us could stop. We were both too stubborn to stop this stupidity. I sat at the airport for about an hour. When I decided that they had gone to the park, I drove home. I hadn't been home even 5 minutes when the phone rang. It was Mary. She wanted to apologize for not going to the play. You didn't go to the play, Mary? I asked. No. That's why I want to apologize to Kara. I was stupid and unreasonable. Please ask her to call me when she gets home. Okay, John? Of course I'll call. Thank you for calling, I replied. Now I was beside myself. If she didn't go with Mary and Robert, then who did she go with? Probably with Ray. Damn, I was angry. I couldn't even think straight. The bars were open and I decided to go tie one of them. This was something I hadn't done in years. I went to the local pub where my old friend Julie worked. Actually, she owned the place. She was 15 years older than me, but she was a friend I could talk to. Hey, John, it's funny to see you here. I haven't seen you in months without the little lady strapped to your arm. What can I offer you? Please, Julie, give me 3 double whiskeys and 3 beers first. Are you going to have a one-on-one, old friend? Do you need someone to talk to? Not now, Julie, maybe later. Right now, I'm just going to get drunk. Julie, do I have good credit in case I run out of money? Your credit is always good here, John. If you need anything, just ask. The establishment was almost empty. Several early drunks and a bar counter. She was an older woman who would probably do anything for a drink. I was pretty much out of everything. I looked at the door and Kara came in. Julie called her to come and pick me up. 2 women helped me into the car. My 2 sons laughed at me from the back seat. I heard Kara thank Julie for calling. Kara told her that we would come get the car in the morning. I passed out and Julie let me sleep in the car with the garage door down. When I woke up, it was completely dark outside. Oh my God, it was 3:30 in the morning. I staggered into the house and headed to the bathroom. I peed and was close to throwing up. Luckily, I didn't do this. I returned, lay down on the sofa, and fell asleep again. The next thing I knew, Kara woke me up and told me we needed to talk, that things were getting out of control. She had an appointment all day today and tomorrow, but we'll need to talk as soon as possible. She told me that she had spoken to our neighbor who would take me to get the van. He'll arrive at 10. She said she was late and had to leave. After a light kiss on my cheek, she told me she loved me and headed for the door. I got up, made coffee, and waited for the boys to wake up. I barely remembered what happened the day before, but I remembered Mary's call. She and Robert did not go to the play. My head hurt like hell, and I took a couple of ibuprofen, hoping to dull the throbbing. I gave the boys some cereal and got them dressed. I got dressed and waited for my neighbor. We all got into his van as he drove us to pick up our van. I thanked him and apologized for any inconvenience I caused him. No problem, John. I stopped when I was young, he replied. I buckled the boys up and we headed out. I found myself driving to Kara's office. I took the boys with me to her office. This was the first time they saw the inside of their mother's office. I went to her secretary and was told that Kara would not be in the office today. I asked to see Ray and was told he was also out of the office. Where the hell are they? I'm her husband. I'm very sorry, Mr. Poole. They're at a company meeting at the Holiday Inn, she said. I was about to leave when Dan approached me. John, how was your day? He asked. Not the best, Dan. I came to see my wife and found out that she was not here. She's at the Holiday Inn with that damn idiot Ray. He was stunned by my statement and asked me to come to his office. The boys sat in the hall while I talked to Dan. What does all this mean, John? Is Ray making inappropriate advances to Kara? It is hard to believe. This is the first time I've heard about this, he said. I'm not sure what's going on, but that's why I came here to find out. John, they are at a meeting at the Holiday Inn. I know this for sure. Tomorrow they will be there again. Don't do anything you'll regret until I come to you. Thank you, Dan. I might add that you have always been a friend. He came out and talked to the boys for a few minutes. He really was a decent guy. She and Emma made a good couple. It's good that he found a job in this company. The boys and I left and I drove past the Holiday Inn. I saw Kara and Ray's cars parked side by side in the parking lot. It just hit me in the wrong direction as I was heading home. When we entered, the answering machine was blinking. It was a message from Kara. John, I'm sorry, dear, but this meeting will last longer than we planned. Come on, start having dinner without me. I'll talk to you when I get home. Kiss the boys for me. Love you. What was I supposed to think? She never told me that this meeting would take place at the hotel. I wasn't going to be here when she got home. I took the boys and headed to my mom's house. I left Kara a note and said that maybe we'll see her tomorrow. Tonight we stayed at my mom's. I just signed it. John. No love. John. I didn't know what I felt at that moment. Everything seemed wrong. Tomorrow I was going to the Holiday Inn myself to end all this crap. Around 9 o'clock in the evening, my mother's phone rang. I knew it was Kara. She must have just returned home. I asked my mom to answer and tell Kara that the boys had already gone to bed and I was in no mood to talk. I'll see her tomorrow. I heard my mother say that it was useless, that I was too stubborn. My mom liked Kara, unlike how Kara's parents treated me. Mom ended up telling her that she would take care of everything and that I would see her tomorrow. My mother told me, "John, something is wrong here. You and Kara need to talk and work things out." She cried when we hung up. "I don't care what you think. Kara loves you, and you need to get your head in order. There's no point in arguing with Mom. In any case, it is possible that I got this bovine gene from her." I walked over to the sofa and tried to fall asleep. I'm almost used to sleeping on sofas. I got up the next morning trying to figure out what I was going to do. So much circumstantial shit. But it all adds up. Today I have to meet Kara face to face. I decided to go to the Holiday Inn and find out all the facts for myself. I asked my mom to watch the boys so I could go talk to Kara. Mom was glad to see that I was at least giving Kara a chance to explain everything. I headed to the Holiday Inn. First, I looked for their cars. I saw their cars in the side parking lot. I walked through the side entrance and saw a sign posted where the meeting was being held. The doors were open so I could hear what was going on. About 10 people were sitting around the oval table. I looked inside, but no one saw me. Kara sat next to Ray, the bastard. I was listening outside the door when the other person said they would break for an hour for lunch and then meet to finish work. Today they must finish work early. I quickly went out to the van and waited for everyone to leave. They stayed there for lunch, but I saw Kara and Ray leave through the side door. I rolled down the window to listen to what they were saying. "What do you want, Ray? I don't want to be here with you. Some people might misunderstand this, and I already have enough problems at home," Kara said. "Little home daddy misses you. Does he think you have a lover?" Ray asked. "Stop it, Ray. What you and I had, or rather never had, was 6 years ago, before I met John. When will you finally understand that I want nothing to do with you? Why are you making my life so difficult? Don't you understand? I don't want you. I want my husband, John. Come on, Kara. What does he have that I don't? Besides, he is the stay-at-home dad, and you are the breadwinner. When will you want a real man like me and leave his sweet ass? John, twice, no, 10 times is more than you can hope for. You're lucky I didn't tell him how you pestered me. He'll kick your ass next week. Now leave me alone. You think I'm afraid of the houseboy? Come here. Let me feel your breasts again." He raised his hand to grab her breast when she pulled back to slap him. He reached out and grabbed her hand. "Come on, Kara, is this all you have in you to fight?" I jumped out of the van, and within 3 seconds I was on his ass. I saw his jaw drop, and Kara asked, "John, what are you doing here?" "I'm doing what I should have done months ago," I answered. I hit him as hard as I could in the stomach, then with my right hand, which hit the left side of his face. I just kept hitting him. Somewhere down the line, I probably broke his nose. I know I'm back to body punching. He was never able to make a single swing. He continued to use his hands to try and protect himself. I heard Kara behind me crying and screaming, "Stop, John, please stop." As he fell to the sidewalk, 2 patrol cars pulled up and the officers told me to get on the ground. I guess I didn't go down fast enough when they screamed at me again. "Lie down on the ground, arms at your sides, and now spread your legs." The officer put his knee on the middle of my back, took my hands, and handcuffed them behind my back. Then 2 officers lifted me up. I told them, "Officer, my hands hurt." I hardly feel them. They took me to the squad car as the ambulance pulled up, and the paramedics walked over to Ray and took care of him. The officer told one of the paramedics to come over and look at my hands. He told him they were swollen and covered in blood. I didn't know if it was mine or Ray's. The paramedic was a black guy named Jim. He was a decent man. He asked the officer if he would move the handcuffs but the officer refused, saying he couldn't trust me without the handcuffs. "Hey, dude, I'm Jim. What is your name?" "My name is John. My hands hurt like hell, Jim." "Is anything broken?" "If you think your hands look bad, you should see what you did to that guy over there." "Dude, John, you beat him up real good. You're lucky not all your fingers are broken. What the hell happened, dude? What did this idiot do to deserve such a beating? You don't seem like a bad person. He was harassing my wife, and when he grabbed her, I lost it. I can't let him mess with my wife, even if he's her boss." "John, you're clearly doing badly. He told the officer he wanted you charged with assault with intent to commit murder. I didn't plan to kill him, but maybe I went a little overboard." "What about my hands, Jim? You broke a couple of blood vessels and they're pretty swollen, but nothing's broken. You must have hit a hard part of his skull or a belt buckle or something. I'll put a bandage on them, but when they take you to the holding cell, I'll tell them to give you an ice pack or let you get them wet to relieve the swelling." "Thanks, Jim. I think you're a normal guy. I'm glad about that after what you did to that guy. Good luck to you, John, and whatever it takes. If he did what you said, he deserved it." I was put in a police car and taken to a holding cell. I looked back and saw that they were putting Ray in the ambulance and Kara sitting in the patrol car. They took her testimony. I'm sitting here scared to death. I'm going to talk to the board of directors and tell them what happened yesterday. They want to know why my husband beat up my boss, Ray. Let me go back to the beginning, before I met John. I met John at a New Year's party. I had previously dated Ray, on and off for a few months. Even before him, I was a popular girl. My family had money, not the most luxurious, but we were rich. I went to the best schools, wore the latest styles of clothes. I hung out with rich kids, or as we say, kids who came from money. Not all of them were bad kids, most were quite normal. We just got what we wanted. I lost my virginity at a party in college. I wasn't depraved. I could count on one hand the number of men I've been with. When I started working at Bookbindings, Inc., I was quite popular. I worked in marketing and got along with almost everyone. That's where I met Ray. We were at the same level, but he had already worked there about a year before I started. We started dating, and he was like the guys I knew. He came from a wealthy background and was arrogant. He thought only of himself. I made the mistake after Christmas of sleeping with him one night. It sucked. Nothing special. He was happy and thought he was Mr. Irresistible. The only reason I went to the New Year's party with him was because the party was planned long before we had so-called sex, and we actually worked together. I had no intention of sleeping with him again. It's funny to call it a dream. It would be more pleasant if I slept. I met John at a party. He looked like a bad boy that I shouldn't talk to. When we left the party and went dancing among his friends, it reminded me of the movie Titanic, where Rose went with Jack and had the best time of her life. That's what happened to me and John. I didn't want it to end. I knew there was more to life, and I felt it with John. When he took me home, I knew this would happen. I wanted to make love to this man, but I was afraid that he wouldn't like me afterwards, or that he would be like a dream and sex with him would be the same as before. He was fantastic. He was the lover of my dreams. The man I thought about all the years growing up. God, that was amazing. I knew that I would marry him if he agreed. My parents and brothers were against me marrying John. I told them I love him, and whether they can be a part of our life or not, the choice is theirs. They resisted and hissed about this, but in the end, they agreed to the marriage. John and I have 2 sons. They are the love of our lives. After each of them was born, I took time off to be with them. I hated even working part-time while I was away from them. They were our little boys and looked so much like John. John lost his job. We didn't know what to do. I told John I could go back to work full-time and he could look after the boys. At first he thought it was a stupid idea. After all, he was supposed to be the breadwinner. There were quite a few quality jobs in our area. I ended up going back to work and John stayed home with the boys. In a way, I became jealous of John. I loved him with all my heart, but he was home where I should have been with my boys. I was also worried about John and the other mothers in the park. He doesn't know that I know that women think he's handsome. I worry every day that he will leave me for one of these women. I even kind of asked the boys about what Dad did when he took them to places. I was afraid of losing him. Then I began to work longer and see him less and less. I knew it was damaging our marriage, but what could I do? To survive, we needed to work. I know I'm not a great American woman. It's hard for a working woman to keep it all together. Work, family, true love for her husband, help around the house, all the household chores. I placed more and more on John and did less and less for him. I was worried. Then Ray came back here and was going to be my boss. I don't like this man, and John didn't know that before I met him. I had sex with Ray once. We never discussed our sex life before marriage. We both decided that this was a taboo topic. Now work has taken me away from the man I love and brought me even closer to the man I despised. I was torn apart, not knowing what to do. Ray kept pestering me and I was afraid to tell John. I knew what he would do. In the end, he did it anyway. John has a bad temper and a tendency to jealousy. He takes great care of what belongs to him. I love that about him, and at the same time I hate it. I feel so safe when he is around. It bothered me to no end that people made fun of John. I didn't know whether to tell me or not. If I spoke in front of John, I knew it would anger him. He was very capable of fighting his own battles, but at the same time he was my man, and I wanted to stand up for him. I've told many of my friends that if they have problems with John, then we don't need to be friends. I stood up for him when he wasn't there to speak for himself. I told Mary and Robert to go to hell. John meant more to me than they did. Mary called to apologize and saw that she had been wrong in her treatment of John. I think my friends' husbands were actually jealous of John. He should live his life and be with his family. His manhood was safe, while these husbands were always gone and worried about money. John received a call from Mary and knew that they didn't go to the play with me. Now John became suspicious of Ray again. He made me so damn angry. Always accused me of having affairs when I never did anything wrong. In the heat of argument, we all say stupid things. That's exactly what I did when I told him I might have an affair. I should have known he'd go crazy. We're both so stubborn. We needed to communicate more and talk about our problems. I was afraid to tell him that our meeting would take place at the Holiday Inn. I knew he would think about it the wrong way, and he did. On the first day, we had 20 people at the meeting, and it went late into the night. I called him and he left me. I didn't know what to do. I called his mother, who is a wonderful person, but she said she knew he wouldn't talk to me. I went to bed devastated. I cried all night. The next day, our last meeting took place. I thought that maybe after the meeting, John and I could go somewhere together and be alone. I love him so much. During lunch, Ray asked me to go outside. I scolded him and went over to slap him when he tried to touch my breasts. The rest is history. John appeared out of nowhere and began beating Ray. I was so afraid that John would kill him and that I would lose my John forever. Now he's in a prison cell and I'm sitting here getting ready to tell my story to the board of directors. I'm scared and I don't have my John to protect me. And here I am, sitting in a prison cell. I am charged with assault with intent to maim or wound. It's funny, but that's exactly what I was going to do. I guess it's my fault. They didn't use the murder charge because I didn't have any weapons. Even my car keys. I left them in my van when I jumped out. I soaked my hands in a bucket of ice while I was in the holding cell. Damn, how they hurt. They are still swollen and I have a few cuts and abrasions on them. According to Jim, they should be better in a couple of days. My bail was set at $100,000. I could post bail and get out for $10,000. I tried to call Cara, but I keep getting on voicemail. I think I left her with enough problems. The officer came to my cell. He said my bail was paid and I needed to sign some papers and I could be released. I only stayed here one night. Where did Cara get the money? I walked up to the front desk and my father-in-law was standing there. A man to whom I probably haven't even said 50 words in 5 years. Did he lend us money to help me out? John, we need to talk. Cara called me and told me about your situation. I am so sorry. You see, Cara opened our eyes last Saturday. Mr. Carson, what happened last Saturday? Cara went to the play last Saturday. Yes, she went with my wife and me. She said that you two had a misunderstanding. We told her we didn't think you were right for her, and she put us in our place. She told us how you make her feel and how much she loves you. She told us how much Jimmy and Jerry love you and how most husbands are jealous of you. She called you her knight in shining armor, and yesterday you proved it. You protected my daughter, your wife. I am so sorry for the way I treated you all these years, and I ask for your forgiveness. I'm also a pretty stubborn guy, and it's hard for me to do this. I ask for your forgiveness and hope that we can become better friends. I hope my 2 sons can live up to your standards. Thank you, Mr. Carson, for helping me out. I wish we could become closer friends with you and Mrs. Carson. Your daughter loves you very much and finds it difficult when she has to choose who to be with. Right now, I have to figure out how long I can be imprisoned for. I might need you to look after my family. John, we will fight this. I know Kara, and she doesn't lie. She may not tell the whole story every time, but she won't lie about it. Right now, we need to take you home to your boys. Kara, in her office, does her best to explain what happened. Mr. Carson dropped me off at my house. Kara left me a note in case I was released on bail. Honey, I'm in the office, trying to figure out if I have a job. Please don't leave if you get home before me. I miss you so much. I left the boys with your mom. John, you have to trust me. I love you with all my being. I hope you'll be there when I get home. Love you, Black. I'm pretty sure Kara didn't cheat on me with Ray, but now we had other problems. I went to the refrigerator to grab a beer when I heard Kara's car was in the garage. I quickly grabbed another beer and opened both. As soon as Kara walked in, I handed her one. A peace offering for all the horror I've done. I love you, and I know we can get through this if you stay with me. Kara, I'm a fool for not fully believing you. Please forgive me if you can. I had tears in my eyes because I really meant what I said. Kara began to cry and reached out and hugged me. I was still holding the beer with both hands. Honey, could you take one of these before I spill it? She smiled at me through her tears. John, I love you so much. I never cheated on you. I didn't even think about it. Please believe me. I just didn't tell you everything because, well, now you know why. From now on, I will tell you everything. Maybe we can nip this in the bud before it gets too far. I wanted to tell you what was going on, but then you started blaming me, and we're both a little stubborn. We need to talk more often, she said. I agree. No more secrets or untold stories. When your father posted bail for me, I was surprised to see him. He apologized to me and said that you told them off and stood up for me. He said you went to the play with him and your mom. All this time, you didn't tell me anything. As I mentioned, you kept accusing me of wanting Ray and accusing me of dating him. I got angry and simply said, to hell with it. You can believe whatever you want. I never cheated on you and was always on your side. You just never saw it. You assumed the worst. What a fool I was. You're right, we really need to talk more. Are you going to tell me what happened at work today? I wasn't exactly aware of what was going on. You won't believe it, but I was invited to the board of directors to talk about our vision of events and what led to them, and Emma was on the board of directors. I almost fainted when I saw her. No wonder Dan got the job so easily. If I were on the board of directors, I would hire you, she said. I was talking to Dan the other day and he told me not to do anything stupid until he could call me back. I should have listened. But when that creep came to touch you, I freaked out. I'm so sorry, honey. John, you never need to apologize to me for protecting me. That's one of the things I love about you. You are my hero, she smiled. Your hero is about to go to prison if I don't find a way out of this mess, I replied. So, what happened at this meeting? Emma started by saying she cared about you, and she thought you had to be angry to do what you did. I told her about Ray trying to hit on me, and I kept turning down his advances, but he didn't stop. She told me that I should have come to the board and reported Ray. I told her I had no proof. It was his word against mine. One of the other board members said that I should have reported the incident so that it would go on file. After a number of complaints, they would have taken disciplinary action regarding this. I went ahead and told them everything that happened, and that when Ray grabbed my hand, you jumped out of the van and protected me. Did they say anything else? They talked to Ray in the hospital and his story was completely different. They told me you beat Ray up pretty bad and he pressed assault charges against you. He'll be in the hospital for another day or two. They asked me if I would like to file a sexual assault report against Ray. I asked them what the point was, since I had no proof anyway. Emma pulled me aside and said, Kara, trust me. Apply. I did as Emma advised and filed a report of sexual harassment. The council told me to take the rest of the week off and come back on Monday when they can review all the evidence and make a decision. I asked if I still had a spot available, and one of the board members told me they would let me know on Monday. God, honey, I really screwed up this time, I said. We had a few days to spend with the boys. There was nothing we could do for now, so we told the boys that we would take them to the zoo as a family. After the zoo, we went to their McDonald's, and then they wanted to do some airplane watching. Let me tell you, it was so much better doing it as a family. It even made the fries taste better. We put the boys to bed, and Kara asked me if I would make love to her. She didn't have to ask twice. We made love for the next 2 hours before we were literally too exhausted to continue, so we cuddled and went to bed. The next morning, we received a call from Kara's father's lawyer. He told us not to worry and that Kara's father would pay any legal fees. I didn't like the idea of accepting money from him, but Kara told me that she knew he had to do it to apologize to us. She was right, and besides, we didn't have money for a good lawyer. On Monday morning, Kara was getting dressed to appear before the board. I dressed the boys and then put on trousers and a sports jacket. Kara looked at me and asked, "Where are you going?" "We leave the boys with Mom, and I'm going with you." I made a mess, and I will be with you until the end. You can't do this alone. She cried and kissed me. After dropping the boys off, we walked into the office and went upstairs to the waiting room. The secretary came out and asked Kara to come into the hall. Kara told me to wait for her. She entered the meeting room and was asked to sit down. "How are you doing, Kara?" Emma asked. "As you would expect, John has my back," Kara replied. "How's John? How does he cope with pressure?" "Well, he's waiting for me in the waiting room. He didn't want me to face this alone." "Is John in the waiting room? Ask him to come in," Emma said. The receptionist asked me to come in. I sat down next to Kara and took her hands. "How are you doing, John? How are your hands?" Emma asked. "They are improving." "I'll be fine in a couple of days," I replied. "John, Kara, we think we have good news for you. We had Ray here recently. Anyway, John, you gave him a good time. Anyway, we brought up the sexual harassment case you filed last week. Of course, Ray said none of this was true. We asked him what then provoked John to attack him. Of course, he didn't have a straight answer for us. Another board member continued, Ray said that, although the allegations cannot be proven, which we agree with, he would be willing to drop the charges against John if you, Kara, would drop the harassment charges against him and no disciplinary action against him would also not be accepted. So, Kara, this is on your territory. Are you willing to drop the harassment charges against Ray so he can drop the assault charges against John? Kara cried, squeezing my hands. I saw Emma's eyes begin to fill with tears too. God, yes, thank you very much. I don't know what to say, Kara exclaimed. I had something to say. Emma, and all of you, I would also like to thank you for your actions here, and I don't want to seem ungrateful, but does my wife still have to work under Ray? I'm afraid it would be difficult for me to come to terms with this. Another board member said, we also had to take this into account. We could offer something, but Kara has to make a different decision. Kara, would you be willing to take over as head of the department? I don't understand. You said there would be no disciplinary action. Where will Ray go if I get promoted? Kara asked. He'll go back to West Virginia. He complained after signing the lawsuit, but we told him it was not disciplinary action. It was just a good business move. He will be on sick leave for about a month, and then will be transferred to another place. We will not send it back in the same condition as it is now. So, Kara, should we consider this an acceptance for a promotion? Kara looked at me. Well, dear, should I take this position? She smiled at me. Of course, just don't work so late. The boys and I will cook dinner for you. I smiled back. Emma spoke up. Okay, I think we did a good job here. Oh, Kara, I hope you'll be careful about my situation. Very, Emma, very, and thank you very much for everything, Kara replied. When we left the meeting room, Dan was standing there, smiling. I didn't shake his hand, I hugged him. He was a true friend. When we got in the car, I told Kara to call her mom and dad and invite them to dinner. We're paying. We had great news to share with them. I thought this would be a good start in understanding each other. 2 years have passed since all this happened. Our life was really good. Whenever one of us goes too deep, we use the word stubborn. This is to let the other person know that we need to discuss this. I'm still looking at the women, but I let Kara know what I saw. I always answer, but it's better at home. Kara told me she could live with it. Look, but don't touch. The kids are at school now, so the days are much calmer. I told Kara I was going to look for a job. That same day, my father-in-law called me. John, Kara called and said that you are looking for a job. This is true? Yes, Dad, that's true. He told me when we went to dinner that I should start calling him Daddy, and that's what I do. The boys are at school, and I would like to find some work. I have a vacancy in a warehouse. It only pays $30,000 a year, but it's an honest job, and you can rest when my grandchildren are home. We might even find a way to give you a summer vacation. My grandchildren come first. He learns that family comes first. I accepted the job offer and called Kara at work. We met for lunch and invited Dan and Emma along. We asked them to be Jimmy and Jerry's godparents. The most important thing Kara and I learned is that we need to communicate more with each other. Don't assume anything, ask each other. Our lovemaking is still great. We have friends who were Kara's friends and friends who were mine. All our friends understand that they have to accept both of us or neither of us.